I felt a little bit itchy. Not in a main sort of itchy, so much as an it's been a good day and nobody shot me kind of itchy. I was starting to feel a little bit overdue for something bad to happen to me, but the skies were dry and most of the Crusaders and a few of the adults were getting ready for Rose's funeral in the afternoon. So why was I feeling so jumpy at everything being ordinary? Had I been so stressed for so long that I was starting to anticipate threats that weren't there? Then, the sky wagon swooped over the town once, and before I knew it, my revolver was out. It was the Enclave. They'd finally sent a delivery wagon pulled by a ghoul Pegasus? Absolutely everything, yes, I do deliveries, was painted on its side. I looked at my gun, and at the sight of the lavender filly climbing out of the back of the wagon, and found myself starting to shake. Deus was dead. Blue Blood was dead. The Zodiacs hadn't jumped at me in a while, and I had yet to find out what monster of the day Sanguine had waiting in the wings. Just breathe.
I'll go get Charity, Ditzy,
the small lavender pony with the blonde mane called out, as 3 or 4 Crusaders rushed to the wagon to help unload boxes. Slowly, I walked closer, looking at the ghoul. Her mane might be almost gone, and her wings so much bone, but that googly-eyed expression fit the poster in the post office almost perfectly. Noticing me, she pulled out a piece of chalk from her bags and lifted a slate that hung from a string around her neck. She wrote on the slate and lifted it. Blackjack. Rubbing it clean, she dug into her bags for a folded piece of paper and passed it to me. I looked at her, and then the folded note in front of me. Blackjack, I've made the arrangements with the person who can assist you with your decryption. She's very secretive, but has always been trustworthy in our dealings. However, she operates under some paranoid rules. Ditzy will take you to her, and then back to chapel. You have to go alone and unarmed. When you reach the building, you'll have to go into a memory orb. Then you'll be taken to her. Bottle cap. I looked at the note, and then at Ditzy. She blinked her offset eyes at me, then gave me what I assumed was supposed to be a reassuring smile. I sighed and then coughed. Okay, so I'm with you then? I had to admit, even for a trusting fool like me, there were a lot of things that could be going on. But the fact was that if I was going to find out what EC-1101 was, and what Sanguine wanted it for, I'd have to trust them. I gave the ghoul Pegasus a smile that she happily returned. Okay, I'm going to tell my friends and drop off my stuff. I pointed up the hillside to the southeast. There's a house up there where you can pick me up in a little bit. Ditzy looked where I'd pointed, and then nodded. I quickly trotted away to look for my friends. I was pleasantly surprised to find all of them at the Star House. I was more surprised to find that no pony had killed each other. The kunai sat by the stairs, while Rampage cleaned out her old room, and P-21 took priests. Glory was working on attaching her new beam pistols to her battle settle. I had to admit, she looked a lot better in that Skyguard barding than the black monstrosity P-21 had bought for her. 5 ponies and only 4 bedrooms. Oh dear. I stamped my hooves loudly on the floor. Well, good news there, pony. Rampage peeked out at me. You pregnant? I blinked, and then scowled at the smirking Reaper. No. You're drunk? P-21 asked, as he walked out with a box of priest's drawings balanced carefully on his back. You seem pretty happy, but more coherent than I'd anticipated. No, I'm not drunk. Oh, please tell me you're not taking book again. I don't know if priests can heal the damage like scalpel. Glory fretted. I sat down with a little scream of annoyance. I am not pregnant, drunk, or high. I took a deep breath. I'm going on a little trip to get EC-1101 decoded. Alone. The 3 of them took it about as I expected. Trusting the alicorn is bad enough, but now you're going someplace alone, unarmed, and unconscious. What if you're being sent to paradise? Deus might be dead, but usury still has the caps to inspire all sorts of trouble, P-21 said sharply as he pointed to the door. I trust Itzy-Do to get me safely there and back again. And if I show up armed with all of you, then she won't even show. Still, the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like it. But maybe there's something we can do. 1 minute. That was how long it took before my brain started screaming at me. The Skywagon lifted, and in 1 minute, I was certain I was going to die. Every thought was crushed away by that one impulse that grew and swelled within me. And while I knew I wasn't going to be sucked into the clouds while being smashed into paint on the ground, all I could do was scramble for an orb and clutch it to my horn as my heart beat faster and faster. I fought to try and make the connection, even if it was just to unconscious oblivion if the orb was trapped. I wanted to be with Maripony and Big Macintosh. I wanted to be with the Marauders. I wanted to be with Twist and Vanity and Jetstream and Stonewing and even Doof if I had to. I wanted to jump, insane as it was. I'd be happy taking a spin inside Deus, Blueblood or Gorgon, or even Sanguine. I was lying in a bed, a hospital bed, from the beeping machinery and the feeling of tubes going in and out of my body. Blissful lethargy filled me. I could barely move my head, as the sensation of floating filled every limb. Everything felt so distant. I couldn't tell who or what I was inside right now, just that I was sprawled on my side on the bed. I had the feeling that there were a lot of ponies standing outside my field of vision, but I couldn't move to see them. Then, a maroon unicorn stallion in a white lab coat stepped into view.
A pony is truly a thing of wonder. The arrangement of limbs, the paths of nerves, the circulation of our blood. Magic is in our very bodies and souls. It courses through us. It gave me the ability to alter the universe. It gave you flight.
His magic reached out to dab a cloth at my host's drooling lips.
Sadly, for all our wonder, our flesh is limited and our souls finite. But this war, this darling war, has offered us an opportunity to expand and explore the very possibilities of life itself. And you are going to play a role in that. You should be honored, Lance Corporal Stonewing, he said as he adjusted his glasses. You see, not only are we going to mend your flesh, we are going to enhance it, empower it.
He patted his cheek softly.
We are going to make you better.
And with that, he moved out of my field of sight, his hooves echoing across the tiled floor. The murmuring increased.
I don't like this at all,
a familiar mare's voice said, with an edge of tension as she approached the bed I lay upon.
I want to speak to him.
The subject is under heavy sedation for the procedure, Fluttershy. He shouldn't be conscious. He shouldn't even be alive with his spine severed,
another mare said as the pink-haired Pegasus stepped in front of my host and lowered her soft blue eyes to meet mine. Her lips curled slowly, and I felt his curl to match.
Don't worry, soldier. We're going to fix you right up. We're going to make sure you never, ever get hurt again.
I felt a rasp in my throat that might have been a question. I didn't feel good. What little of my body I could sense felt like it was crawling inside.
We've got his consent in writing and recording,
the mare with the familiar voice said softly. And then a bright red unicorn mare with a short, white-trimmed mane stepped into my vision. She wore magenta glasses with glittery plastic frames and a sure smile that I didn't like at all.
Dr. Trueblood's got the other subject prepared for the megaspell.
A glittery red hoof came to rest on Fluttershy's shoulder.
We really can't wait any longer. We're already committed.
Fluttershy just looked tense. Her eyes were surrounded by wrinkles. Stonewing made another noise of confusion. Something about this was all wrong, and we both knew it. The red mare continued softly.
They won't use your megaspells on the battlefield, Fluttershy. But we can still put it to use to keep ponies safe. That's what all this is about, after all. Keeping ponies safe. And he will be safe. And he'll be able to keep other ponies safe as well. He won't even have to kill zebras anymore. He'll stop them with one look, and turn them back with another.
Fluttershy looked at me a moment longer, her eyes full of both sadness and a terrible kind of need. A need for something. She wanted this, I realized. But she didn't want to admit it. Couldn't admit it. I think that my host realized it too, as he breathed harder and faster, trying to say something, anything, to stop this. But Fluttershy just backed away, and let the nurses and doctors come and gently pull back his sheet and levitate him into the air. I saw jars full of a familiar and disgusting rainbow concoction dripping into a tube that disappeared into my limp hoof. Slowly, I was levitated over into the middle of a circle of unicorns. I wasn't alone. Something else floated there as well. Something I first thought was some kind of chicken. Then I noticed the wings, the claws, the serpentine body. But before my eyes, it was changing, bubbling, melting as if it were made of wax.
Careful, the medical stallion called out. You don't want it to liquefy them too much. Remember the last 4 subjects.
And so was my host. I caught a glimpse of his hoof stretching like wax before my eyes. I wanted to cry out, but all he could do was rasp as I felt his body return. They'd said they'd sedated him. They'd lied, or it wasn't nearly enough. And when sensation returned, I felt the violation of the creature being pressed into his body. Flesh twisted as I felt it struggle and thrash for freedom inside him. And it was slow. So horribly slow. The creature felt like it was swimming inside him, as if his flesh were a net it tried to escape from. And worse, I had the distinct feeling of something happening inside my skull. My eyes crawled as I felt the sockets change.
Excellent. He's blended nicely,
I heard the medical stallion say sharply.
Right. Purge the contaminants and let's see what comes out of the oven.
The glow dimmed and I felt something horrid being expelled from my orifices.
Good. Superfluous biological material removed. Everything going exactly as it should.
The stallion stomped his hooves eagerly.
Wonderful. The fusion megaspell is a success.
I dropped to the floor in a pile of colorful ichor and fleshy goo and slowly turned my head towards the sound of the stomping. The maroon unicorn in the lab coat seemed quite enthused. Meanwhile, Garnet was escorting Fluttershy to the door. I rose to my shaky hooves, feeling a body that was no longer my own. I tried to talk around a serpentine tongue, tried to call out to Fluttershy. I imagined him begging her to turn him back. Then, with one parting glance over her shoulder, Fluttershy left the room with Miss Redhooves. A nurse stepped in front of him.
He seems aware, Dr. Trueblood,
she said as she stared into my host's eyes. Then she jerked and gasped, crying out in pain as her limbs solidified before me.
Excellent. Magical traits of the addition transferred intact,
the maroon pony in the lab coat said, actually dancing in glee. Then my host reared up and smashed the petrified pony into rubble. Screams started as he began to charge through the megaspell chamber. I noticed that he was trying to struggle to the doctor, his bat-like wings fighting for purchase. But then spells filled his body with lethargy. He collapsed as the numbness robbed his strength once more. A sack went over his head. Conjured ropes bound his limbs.
You said he'd maintain his sapience, Doctor,
the mare with the glittery hooves shouted as she returned.
Fluttershy almost saw that.
The unicorn stallion chuckled in delight.
Oh, he did. I'm sure of it. He came right towards me after all.
You're sure?
Oh, yes. Project Chimera is a complete success. We simply need more subjects to make the process more efficient. Explore combinations. Trace possibilities.
The doctor chuckled from nearby.
I think we should classify this strain as Gorgon.
The glittery hoof mare spoke from right above me.
I hope you're right, Doctor. We're trying to procure more combat personnel for the prototypes. Luna wants war resources, and we're going to give them to her. Though, we'll have to keep billing this as a Ministry of Peace project to keep the others distracted.
Cloak and dagger intrigues I leave to you, Garnet. Are you going to forward our results to Emerald?
Of course, Dr. Trueblood. The MAS should be briefed about the possibilities of flux-accelerated megaspells. And we're already exploring possibilities with the other ministries.
Are you sure that's wise? Shouldn't the Ministry of Peace maintain exclusivity?
Garnet laughed brightly.
Oh, Doctor. Then we wouldn't be able to get away with nearly as much.
I felt magic lift Stonewing's body as the red pony said softly,
Let's make sure this memory is nice and clean, and then put him in storage till we're ready to duplicate the process.
I felt a horn touch his forehead through the bag, and everything swirled away. Coming to, I felt myself shaking as the memory left me. Gorgon. Project Chimera was Equestria's monster-making program, and Fluttershy had known, had been involved. She had said to do better. That wasn't better. That was insane. I swallowed hard as I twitched there on the ground. After Deus's orb, and now Gorgon's, I wasn't sure I'd be able to go into any more orbs for a while. I felt sick at the thought of it. It was like sticking my hoof in a fire. So, where the heck was I now? I slowly opened my eyes and looked around. This was some kind of office, and a fancy one if you look past the fallen ceiling tiles and rotting floor. Streamers of water trickled constantly from broken and cracked pipes overhead, and washed over the moldy carpeting and miniature rivers. The emergency lighting still flickered and twitched on and off. The big desk in the room looked just like the Overmare's. And the open door leading from the office was a stable door, or at least a flimsy half-sized replica of one. This couldn't be a stable, though. No stable had armored windows looking out at the wasteland as this office did. I walked to the door. It looked like a stable, if you'd built one with rooms twice as large as normal. No stable I'd seen had hallways this roomy. I watched the rusty river trickling along the hall and cascading down some stairs. Judging by the cracks and holes in the wall, clearly this place wasn't built as tough as a stable either. A ping sounded, and one of the replica stable doors down the hall slid open. Okay, once again, have I mentioned how much I really wish I had my EFS? And my gun? And my barding? And my friends? I really hate being alone, especially in any place that looked remotely like a stable. Stables were not places for lone ponies. The door opened into an elevator, its walls lined with posters. "Stable Tech, voyage to the future," proclaimed one. "Save yourself and your family. Sign up today," read another. Looking at the pictures of 10-story stables with swimming pools and internal gardens, I wondered why I'd never heard of a stable like that. 99 must have opted out of those features. And who knew? Maybe it had. How many stables had been built? Perhaps stables 1, 2, and 3 had been paradises, but towards the end, they had to replace underground greenhouses with recycling equipment out of a simple need for expediency? I stepped into the elevator. The doors slid closed behind me, and the car started descending. As long as I kept my eyes on the walls, I didn't feel the panic building too much. 10 seconds later, the elevator slowed, and the car doors opened. I stepped into a hall almost completely sealed with rubble. One door remained clear. Written on it in chipped white paint were the words Stable Tech R&D. The few other doors I could see were open and led to rooms that looked so damaged that they might collapse on me if I so much as sneezed in the general area. I really hoped that I wouldn't have to try them. The door slid open in front of me, and I stepped onto a catwalk over a floor covered in work tables. I picked my way slowly around the edge to stairs down to the work floor. An entire wall was almost covered with glowing monitor screens. Looking up at the upper left, I saw a flickering label over a slowly rotating design. Stable 1 completed. Next to it was an even larger design. Stable 2 completed. And the next. And the next. Some of the monitors were dead, a few were marked as delayed or redesigned, but the majority of them were complete. I saw the sprawling layout of Stable 89 with all its many storage areas and labs. It looked similar to 90 and 91. Then I frowned as I looked at Stable 90. Complete? "This stable's not finished," Buttercup had written. A mistake? Or had something else happened? I smiled at the sight of 99, despite everything. I'd never realized how big 99 actually was. The 4 stories of habitation blocks around a central stair, linking atrium to living quarters, to utility storage, to maintenance, to reactor. It looked a bit like a tree, curiously enough. And it was complete, if completely fucked up. Over the workstations were more stable designs flickering and rotating silently on their screens. Rapture Hydrostable resembled dozens of bubbles. Was it supposed to go underwater? Sea Star Hydrostable looked more like some sort of floating island. Celestia Astrostable had rotating wheels like a wagon and long sweeping wings, while Luna Astrostable actually looked a lot like 99, but built inside a big above-ground pyramid for some reason. I couldn't see how ponies were supposed to reach the door all the way up at the top. Big Macintosh Megastable was positively huge, looking as if it had been designed to hold thousands instead of hundreds. Scootaloo Aerostable seemed more designed for cloud dwellers, while the Pinkie Pie Aerostable hung from huge balloons. There were other designs that seemed even less concrete. Along the opposite wall were monitors showing the evolution of mainframes, terminals, and pipbucks. The first machines were room-sized monsters, progressing through smaller and smaller boxes until they reached desk-sized mainframes, like many we'd run across. The first terminals were already small enough to fit on a desk, but they looked bulkier than the ones I was used to, with smaller screens and more awkward-looking keyboards. Then the Personal Information Processor, Alpha, appeared in the form of a pipbuck so large that it covered an entire pony. Boxes, straps, and wires everywhere like some odd form of armor. Beta pipbucks covered most of a limb and still had a backpack. After that, terminals became more simplified and refined, though I couldn't see any difference between a standard, a hardened, and a reinforced terminal. The differences in pipbucks were far more obvious. The Gamma models were what I had on my hoof, from the slightly bulkier 2000 to the more compact 3000. There was a Delta Model 2 that seemed even simpler and more flimsy than the rest. Terminals shrank to hoof-sized contact nodes. I wondered if eventually the two would merge. Well, would have merged, if things hadn't blown up. There weren't any exits on the first floor, so I climbed back up to the catwalk. Most of the offices off the catwalk were locked and dark, but one was lit by the green glow of a terminal. I made my way to that door. The office within was cluttered in an absent-minded way. There were wadded-up designs piled up high in the wastebasket, drawings taped to every available surface, and scale models dangling from the ceiling on fishing line. A full-sized robotic pony stood silently in one corner, looking forlorn and abandoned. There were pictures of things other than technology, too. 3 fillies wearing blue and gold capes, piled one atop the other, laughing at the camera. The trio, a bit older, proudly displaying their cutie marks. I was struck by how similar they looked. The 3 again, this time mature mares, apparently enjoying a night out together. There were pictures of Applejack and one of Big Macintosh, and a third of an elderly green pony. The terminal had only one thing on its screen. Area of Inquiry. I looked at it and the keys, then typed slowly. EC1101. The screen flickered once. Hello, Blackjack. I was looking at the blinking cursor when a flicker and flash from behind me caused me to spin around, reflexively trying to ready a weapon that wasn't there. The light was coming from the robot, and as I watched, it grew more and more concrete until a flickery image of a young apple bloom stood in front of me, identical to the filly in the picture, save for the luminance that glowed around her. Looking at the strange glowy earth pony, I relaxed a bit, though not much. Hello?
Heard you got yourself a puzzle on your hoof.
The filly said as she trotted towards me.
Well, I never got a puzzle-solving cutie mark, but most folk figure I was a clever pony.
If you don't mind, what the heck are you? I asked in shock. Who are you? She gave a smile.
Well, that's a million-bit question, ain't it? Maybe I'm a pony running things from a terminal somewhere, helping you out. Maybe I'm just a machine doing what I'm programmed to. Or maybe I'm Applebloom. You can call me Applebot.
Then she looked at my blackened pip-buck. Her eyes widened in shock.
Land sakes! How'd you fry 3,000? They're supposed to last forever.
Lightning?
Lightning?
The robot sounded skeptical.
You got it struck by lightning?
I nodded weakly. She rubbed her mouth as she looked at the blackened electronics, then shrugged.
Well, that'll do it. I guess you'll be needing a new one.
So, the data's not lost? I asked warily, as two mechanical hands, if you could call the clusters of tools that, rose from the robot's shoulders. The tools on the end of each finger began to deftly remove my pip-buck. The little pony smirked.
Oh, it'd take a lot more than that to kill your data. To do that, something have to destroy your pip-buck outright. And probably you too. Nah, you just fried the interface. Which, I gotta admit, is still pretty impressive.
She set the device on the table, then trotted over to a metal cabinet.
Now, 3,000. Nope. Fresh out of 3,000. Looks like you're gonna have to make do with the Delta model.
A Delta? I asked, as I watched her remove a sleek, polished silver pip-buck. I looked at it, and then at my more bulky model. Do you have anything a little bit heavier? The little apple bloom cocked her brow at me. Well, it's just that I hit ponies with my pip-buck.
You hit 'em?
She clicked her tongue, and said with a touch of playful sarcasm,
That ain't no way to treat sensitive electronics.
She replaced the flimsy silver one and dug around a bit.
Aha! Here we go.
She pulled out a matte black pip-buck that seemed marginally more bulky, but only barely.
Was designing this for the shadow bolts, but it never made it to mass production.
Setting it next to my old 3000, the robot hands removed the covering as I watched.
So, how's Stable 99 holding up?
Applebot asked curiously. Huh? I blinked.
Stable 99. I put a whole lot of new stuff in there. Was wondering if it worked out or not.
Well, it's still working. I mean, I hear rivets complain all the time about leaking pipes, but the recyclers still work like a charm.
Well, that's good to hear. I was a little worried about the reprocessors. I mean, I know they purify and remix the waste. I ate the sample chips myself. Still, there's something just off about that.
Yeah, especially when you have to reprocess a stallion after being removed from the breeding population. The robot froze as she finished removing the casing. She looked back at me.
What did you say? You do what now?
Put dead ponies in the reprocessors? I blinked at her shocked and disgusted expression. What? That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Maybe if you like a high-protein diet.
She said, still looking a little shaken.
Reprocessors weren't made for that, though. That's why I installed an incinerator.
She gave a disgusted little shiver.
And
Breeding what now?
Well, in Stable 99. And I explained the whole breeding process as the little Applebloom's mechanical armatures carefully removed a flat, glowing gem plate. It looked like a wafer of pure diamond with a magical glyph in the center. She placed it in the new pip-buck and deftly screwed it into place.
You what?
Was Applebot's response to my explanation. Well, that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, didn't Stabletech set it up that way? I said defensively. The robot shook her head slowly, the magical hologram flickering slightly as it turned back to the pip-bucks. Then there was a hiss and a click, and a mayor's voice sounded from my new pip-buck.
Hi, this is Scootaloo. And you know what? I'm sick of these recordings. I'm just fucking sick of them. I can't. I don't. Fuck!
The mayor yelled.
How'd things get so messed up? I had to do over 100 of these. Damn it. I'm just so sick of it all.
There was a teary sniff.
The hell with it. Okay. Again. This is Scootaloo, VP of Stabletech. You've got yourselves one heck of a stable. We made it as good as we could. You've probably noticed you don't have any orchards or food warehouses, right? Well, that's because the machines in 99 recycle all your waste, purify it, mix it. You know what? Don't think about it. Okay, just don't. It's gross no matter how you slice it. It just means you won't run out of food anytime soon. So long,
She continued sharply.
as you keep the population stable. You should have enough contraceptives to last at least 2 centuries. You also need to keep a 1 offspring per pony policy. Keep things stable over Mare. There's other stuff here too, but you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care. Do what you have to do, but keep things stable. Survive. And do better than what we did. Applebloom! You two are doing the next ones, got it? I need a fucking drink. 99. Fuck. 99.
The voice cut off.
Those are all the instructions given.
Applebot said.
There were some additional plans, but the fact is that by 99, we left it largely up to the ponies to decide what they would do. I mean, the only restriction 101 had was that it was Earth ponies only. Who knows what they cooked up?
She gave a soft sigh.
Poor Scootaloo. It wasn't fair to her. But she was the only one who could record those messages. I got tongue-tied, and Sweetie Belle just bawled.
But how'd we go from that to... I just stared at the enormity of it. It hadn't been some messed up Stabletech rule or bylaw. It was us. We'd created the nightmare P21 and I'd escaped from. I swallowed hard and looked at the hologram-wrapped robot. Are you really... Applebloom?
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a copy of her.
She said as she finished and powered up the new black pip-buck.
Hard to say, really. But there's some truth to saying that you shouldn't use yourself as a test subject. Just ain't healthy.
She said as the robot's hand slipped the device around my hoof.
There you go. Complete with a fully functional broadcaster and terminal interface.
At my blank look, she rolled her eyes and then explained.
Basically lets it contact terminals through your pip-buck, if you have a signal source recorded.
She then looked down at my pip-buck.
So, EC 1101. It still exists.
I felt a shiver go down my spine. EC 1101. What the hell is it? Applebot smiled sadly up at me.
The keys to the magical kingdom of Equestria, Blackjack.
Once upon a time, Equestria had been ruled by two princesses. The older ruled because, quite honestly, she was immortal and magical. There wasn't a civil war, or a crisis of succession, because the princesses couldn't die of old age. Celestia had 1,000 years of experience, and the kingdom was familiar with her leadership. She wasn't a tyrant. She didn't have to be a tyrant. The status quo was so comfortable and predictable that Equestria simply accepted her rule. Beneath her was a hierarchy of lesser nobles tasked with administrating the smaller day-to-day local concerns and maintaining the order of things. Equestria had 1,000 years of near-social stasis. Of course, the return of Nightmare Moon and Princess Luna disturbed all that. It wasn't big at first, but the presence of the two princesses prompted a change in attitude across the kingdom. There were many reasons for Celestia to continue, but what if other possibilities were considered? New avenues of thought opened up simply because the societal fabric had altered its paradigm. Magic became arcane science. Nobles found their station questioned and challenged. Businesses arose. Trade with outsiders, both of goods and ideas, exploded. Life was new and good. But then the war came. A war such as Equestria could not have known. And like so many things, ponies were not prepared for its novelty. The violence tore at Equestria, and fear and desperation ripped at its underpinnings. Some stresses pushed science and magic further than ever dreamed. Others tore ponies down. But through it all went the ironclad belief that, whether under Celestia or Luna, a princess would rule. Shattered Hoof Ridge changed all that. Only Big Macintosh's sacrifice prevented Equestria from discovering the hard way just how integral the princesses were to the country's collective psyche. The death of a soldier was tragic, but the idea of losing one of the fundamental parts of the kingdom proved unbearable. It introduced an insidious question. What would Equestria do if the princesses were killed? EC 1101.
Equestrian Command 1101 isn't a computer file.
Applebot explained softly as her mechanical hands withdrew into her shoulders.
It's a delayed trigger megaspell, designed to transfer control of the country's critical systems from the princesses to another individual in the event of both princesses' deaths. It was supposed to use the terminal network. It would travel from terminal to terminal, node to node, seeking out the next designated target.
So, who were the targets? I asked, just before the realization hit me. The ministry mares, of course.
Yes. First, Twilight Sparkle, then Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Rarity, and finally Pinkie Pie. The spell would locate them all and bestow upon them the authority to run the country, and give them full control over the countless information, magic, and technological systems that ran Equestria. If it failed to do that, it would seek out the heads of the armed forces, the courts, the Office of Interministry Affairs, or the descendants of any of its targets. Unfortunately, it seems, the spell could not make contact with any pony.
So how did it end up in Stable 99?
Sheer size, unfortunately. And the fact that it wasn't triggered till the fall of Canterlot, which took far longer to die than the rest of Equestria. Most nodes handled small packets of magical information. EC 1101 was not small. It's a highly complex behemoth of a spell. And unlike normal files, it only had a few networks it could move through swiftly. The Bellfire bomb shattered those networks. The last jump it made, I suspect, was from the Ministry of Morale's hub in Manhattan, just prior to, or during, the city's destruction. Then the stable tech link between Stable 99 and the rest of Equestria severed, and the spell remained trapped in 99 systems.
So, why is Sanguine after it now? The Ministry mares are all dead. Every pony's dead.
Gee, what a rosy thought that was, Blackjack.
Correct. None of the Ministry mares had offspring, and the likelihood of locating the descendants of the military or judicial branches is minuscule. The spell might recognize a ghoul, but I'm skeptical. Still, it is a key, and I think some pony with the right skills might be able to use it to force an override of something. Maybe turn off a security system or break into a database. The fit would be rough though, and it'd probably only work 2 or 3 times before the spell got completely wrecked.
An idea struck me. Have you ever heard of something called Project Chimera?
She looked thoughtful, rolling her eyes as she stared at the ceiling.
There! Found an index.
She nodded once.
Project Chimera. OIA project sealed by Royal Command.
Her flickering eyes widened.
Holy smokes! Sealed by Royal Command?
What's that mean?
It means that Luna, personally, put her hoof down and killed that project. A lot of ponies involved probably went to jail too.
Could EC1101, open it up again?
My mane crept on my neck as the little robot blinked, thought, and then nodded.
Probably. If a princess locked it, some pony with Princess X's privileges would have to unlock it.
How about Project Eternity?
Project Eternity, OIA project, sealed by Royal Command.
Project Readout?
Project Readout, OIA project, sealed by Royal Command.
Then she blinked in shock.
Well now, looks like Luna was cleaning house at the OIA. I wonder why.
Me too.
I frowned and rubbed my nose with my hoof.
Are there any other OIA programs that were shut down by Royal Command?
Wait. I got Project Steel Pony, Project Party Pooper, Project Starfall, Project Horizons.
Applebot paused. Then the flickering robo-pony frowned in consideration.
You want something else that's weird? They were all shut down on the same day, a month before the bombs fell.
I heard the soft rustle of cards as I thought about those names.
OIA, Office of Interministry Affairs, right? Who were they?
Oh, them? Not much. They acted as liaisons between Stapletech and ministries other than the MWT.
She said with a dismissive little shrug.
A bunch of overworked ponies who were really busy managing the gaps in between the ministries.
What do you mean by the gaps between the ministries?
I asked, with a little frown.
Because that's what the OIA did. Say there was some pony in MAS that had an idea they wanted to work out with the MOP. The OIA would pass that idea to someone in the MOP. They'd set things up for the 2 ministries to work them out, make bridges between the ministries, and fill the gaps. Or say some inventor came up with a new talisman, but both the MWT and the MAS wanted dibs on it. The OIA would work things out so that every pony had access without wasting time fighting and arguing. Some ponies like to call it Spike's ministry, but I'm not sure if he was involved.
I sighed, feeling the nasty thought.
Why would they make monsters then? That seemed to surprise her, and I explained Gorgon's memory orb.
That's very disturbing. But while I've no doubt that the OIA might set up something like that, it probably originated in the Ministry of Peace. While most were diligent about helping Equestria, and even the enemy, there were some ponies there that were decidedly creepy.
I sighed, looking at the Pip-Buck with a little grunt. Well, damn. As interesting as all this was, I have to admit, now that I know what it is, I still don't know what to do with it. I tapped the screen showing the file name with a hoof. I mean, it doesn't tell me who Sanguine is working for, or how to stop him. I frowned at her. Would he be able to use EC1101 to make more monster ponies?
If that's what Chimera was for, I suppose.
Applebot said thoughtfully. So much for just giving the damn thing up. Could I just destroy it? That made her pause.
I suppose. Sure. Not even your Pip-Buck spell matrix would survive something like a Bellfire blast.
Applebot replied, and I felt staggered. That's what it would take?
But are you sure you want to? You don't know what those other projects are, or who you might be able to help.
Great. Guilt trip me with that. I just wish I could find some offspring of Applejack or Pinkie Pie and shove it in their lap. And then what? I started fiddling with the new Pip-Buck, checking some of its features. The EFS was blue instead of amber. That was at least 20% cooler.
Yeah, unless you're some long-lost descendant of Twilight Sparkle. It's not much good to you.
She said, looking sympathetic.
If you want my advice, EC1101 was en route somewhere when it got stuck in Stable 99. If you can get it to where it was going, you might find some answers about what's going on and who's really after it.
So how do I do that?
Oh, that's easy. Go back to whatever terminal you got EC1101 from and see which terminal it was going to next. Go to that terminal and repeat the process till the routing is finished.
Go back? I muttered weakly, my eyes widening. My mane was suddenly feeling very itchy indeed. Back to Stable 99. I had to go back. I wasn't exactly sure about Applebot's suggestion of following the routing, but it was all I had at the moment. Above all that, though, was the fact that Stable 99 was a chapter I needed to close. I knew now what they were doing was wrong, and I had the guns and friends to make sure it stopped for good. Well, it's a plan at least, I said, smiling.
Good. I think that whatever you do, you should track that.
And then there was a ping and a crackle as the illusion wrapping around Applebot flickered and the small robot slowly keeled over. With a clatter, it sparked and the illusion disappeared. Then, automatic fire ripped through the windows of Applebloom's office and I fell onto my side. The robot gave a buzz and the light in its eyes went out. Gonna try and take me alive? I shouted at the tops of my lungs as broken glass settled over me. A rock flew through the shattered windows and bounced off the top of my head, making me curl up as it landed in front of me. An apple-shaped rock, with a bright red band around the middle. Reflexively, I threw it back through the window as I dove for cover under Applebloom's desk. The grenade erupted into a sheet of flame that splashed over the desk and the ponies immediately outside. I grabbed Applebloom's terminal and yanked it hard, snapping its cords. Floating the terminal in front of me, I raced out of the burning office and onto the catwalks. One Earth Bunny was scrambling, trying to extinguish her armor and bring her automatic pistol to bear on me at the same time. Another started taking shots that sparked and pinged off the terminal housing. I looked down and toggled sats with a thought. In that moment of accelerated time, my horn flashed thrice, and her head transformed into gray, red, and white pulp. Sweet goddesses, how I loved sats. Now I had a gun and a terminal. I lifted the former and heaved the latter at the mare with a similar 10mm automatic. She dodged away as I raised the pistol, took aim, and carefully planted a quartet of bullets in her face and throat. There were still a lot more red bars on my cool blue EFS, though, as I swept up her gun. I wished I had time to collect bullets.
Ares! She's up there!
Shouted a Colt from the far side of the lab. The catwalk was clear, and I raced for the door. Suddenly, a plume of flame sprayed up through the grate and swept towards me. Burning office behind me and a plume of flame to the front, the only way to go was down. I leapt over the catwalk railing. My tail, a little too late to avoid the spray of flame, trailed smoke. I landed, my legs giving a resounding pop as something gave way. I rolled and slid across the grimy floor, ending up underneath a work table. I heard the ping of a grenade bouncing off the top before rattling further away and then detonating with a fiery whoosh. Something walked with ominously slow and heavy steps. The rest were moving fast. One slid across the floor with a victorious look in her eyes. Our gazes met, and her jaws worked the trigger. My horn was faster, and with a pop ejected the clip. That didn't stop the 10mm round still in the chamber from thumping meatily into my front leg. But nothing she could do prevented me from filling her with half a dozen rounds from both guns. Struggling to my feet, I snatched up her clip in my teeth and kept my head low as I limped as fast as I could, hoping that the smoke filling the room would screen my movements. A wall of flame sprayed across my path, cutting off the stair back to the catwalk. I backpedaled from the heat so quickly that I fell over. I looked at the source of the flame. The Steel Ranger power armor had been spray-painted a brilliant cherry red, with a fireball on the flank. A heavy incinerator was mounted on one side of the armor, and a grenade launcher protruded from the other. Shit! I was dealing with a flaming dais! And worse, I doubted these bullets were going to cut it. I hobbled my way forward as two other ponies ran around to cut me off and finish me. I screamed around the clip in my jaws as I strafed the pair. Then I body slammed into one, collapsing into a tangle of limbs. The other mare was so eager to finish me off that she sprayed bullets into her teammate. I hauled the corpse over my body as a meat shield, hissing in pain as two more holes opened in me. My head started to spin. Be strong, a little orange pony told me. I ejected the spent clip and slammed the one in my mouth home, narrowing my eyes as I clutched the body over me like a macaw blanket. She had no such cover, and my bullets raked across her until she finally fell. I swallowed, fighting the urge to vomit. I could hear Ares walking closer and saw the remaining two red bars. Still, I needed healing desperately. Digging through their bodies, I found two cloudy gray potions and grimaced. They tasted like sour milk, and they didn't do much for my injuries. The medics helped far more, letting me haul myself to my hooves.
She's getting up! Move to your left!
The Colt called out, and I reversed as grenades clouded in that direction, filling the air with more patches of crackling magenta fire. There was a hiss, and from a few feebly glowing talismans sprayed cones of water. I doubted it would be enough to fight the kind of blaze that Ares was creating, but it washed out some of the smoke and made it easier for me to think. The Colt was tracking me somehow. Not with an EFS, I was pretty sure the power armor had something like that. This was something giving him the distance he needed. I ran. Okay, limped, horribly, with my leg threatening to make me fall flat on my face with one wrong step, in the direction of the door again. As I approached the stairs and the catwalk, I saw the blue unicorn Colt with the picture cutie mark from Chapel looking down at a strange little device between his hooves. Then he calmly levitated a revolver and started blasting away at me. Falling on my face in the slippery pool of cold water was the only way I could keep from eating some more rounds of lead. I rolled over and pointed the pistol at his face, but he just smirked with certainty and fired again. Damn it! Sure, he was a Colt, but he was shooting at me. Why couldn't I blow him away for that? I scrabbled through the water as his bullet took off the tip of my ear. The medics wasn't enough to fully keep the edge off the pain as I staggered ahead of Ares and out of the blue Colt's field of fire. I just needed a healing potion, and to stop bleeding, and for the world to stop spinning. I limped along in a circuit. Ares had swapped to fragmentation grenades now, lobbing them with infuriating accuracy. My tail was both ragged and scorched now, and my butt was laced with superficial holes from chunks of shrapnel. The second I slowed down even just a little, I was toast. I wondered if they were toying with me for Gemini and Taurus. Wait, my tail. I took cover behind an overturned workbench and ran my hooves and magic through my singed tail. Then I felt it. A small ball the size of a corn puff and almost as light was clipped to my tail. It had a small blinking light. A tracking device? Good. I was so glad I wasn't going to have to yell at Ditzy or Bottlecap. Still, what good did it do me against that power armor? Eventually, I'd bleed out or burn up. Even if I crushed the thing, what I needed was some way to disable Ares, like with one of P-21's spark grenades. Some way. I looked at the rows and rows of stable monitors and the cables hanging behind them.
Left! 40 feet! Now!
The Colt yelled as Ares turned and fired another shot with the grenade launcher. To the right, I scrambled on top of the closest workbench and prayed. The grenade exploded, the monitors flickering wildly as the power cables were severed and the wires dropped into the churning water. There was a resounding pop and a smell of ozone. The power armor's weapons drooped as the crackle went on, and then everything went dark. Slowly, I walked towards the stairs and looked up at the Colt. Now his smile wasn't nearly so cocky.
Ares? She's coming.
In my mutant gaze, I could see him clearly as I walked through the darkness towards him and tossed the gun aside. He gave a desperate giggle and hiccup as he levitated his revolver and pointed it at me. My horn shoved the barrel aside as he fired. He re-aimed, and again, I shoved the barrel in the other direction. The bullet passed so close beside me I could feel it. I stared him right in the eyes as he pressed the hot tip of the gun to my forehead.
You won't kill me. I'm a kid. I'm just a Colt. You won't. Please don't.
As he scrambled back, I saw his strange cutie mark was peeling away. A cutie mark decal. His flank was blank beneath it. He pulled the trigger, but there was no recoil, as my magic gripped the hammer before it could release and fire the round. Now he shook in shock and terror, as his levitated weapon jerked ineffectually.
You're right. You are just a Colt,
I said low and soft, my grin spreading.
And I'm not an executioner.
Then I grabbed him in my bloody hooves and twisted, sitting atop the stairs and pulling him across my lap as my magic flung the weapon from his startled grasp. He wailed as I pinned his head with one hoof and then spanked his ass as hard as I could, grunting with each smack.
Do not shoot the nice security pony.
Then I shoved him away from me and limped towards the elevator, leaving him sniffing behind me. From the depths of the power armor came a mare's tentative,
Hello?
as I limped into the door. I made my way back up to the office I'd woken in and found my way up to the roof. Ditzy-Doo waited nervously with Silverbell as each of my friends, who technically hadn't come with me to the meeting, each stood watch at a different corner of the building. Well, the three were watching. Rampage spat loogies over the edge. As the door slammed shut behind me, Rampage looked up and noted the new holes in me. Her face split into a grin.
So, run into any trouble?
My smoldering look gave them their answer. Really, it was my own damn fault. I'd said, wait on the roof and keep an eye open for trouble. Not, stay 10 feet behind me and keep quiet. The Zodiacs had gotten in some other way, and my friends had been up here the whole time. I flopped onto my side, dug out an orb, and got ready for the flight back. Jetstream. The memories that flowed from the orb weren't the same as I was used to. Somehow, they were concentrated and accelerated, coming in flashes and little insights. Jetstream meeting Stonewing in summer flight camp. The pair learning to fly together, she with ease and he with difficulty. There is a race between them and some rivals, but a thunderstorm brews. A gust of wind blows them all into a mountainside, with the exception of Jetstream. She flies faster than ever before. Stonewing, slowest flyer in all of Equestria, proves himself also the strongest as he carries 3 Pegasi across the finish line on his back. She's gotten her windy cutie mark. He's gotten his granite wings. The pair, older, seeing the Wonderbolts perform for the Summer Sun celebration. A cyan Pegasus with a rainbow mane talks about wanting to join the team. He can't take his eyes off her. Jetstream can't take her eyes off him. They're sitting together in his home in a city of clouds, reading about the rescue attempt and the deaths of so many Wonderbolts together. He wonders about the mayor. She just sighs and looks away. They meet behind the weather factories. He tells her he's going to enlist. She tries to talk him out of it. They show up in basic training together. Stonewing lifts Big Macintosh on his back. He gets applause for the first time in his life. She smiles, so happy for him. They fly in their first battle together. Griffin Mercs can't resist the slower flyer, but their rifles can't drop him. She picks them off one by one with lightning passes. After the battle, she receives commendations from their captain, Cupcake. She tries to give credit to Stonewing. He just shakes his head with a smile and limps away to the medic. Dinner on a boardwalk with the Marauders. Doof challenges Stonewing to a garlic eating contest. They eat bulb after bulb. Doof goes red, then green, then he loses. Stonewing eats 3 more bulbs. Jetstream gives him a victory kiss anyway. They watch the fireworks over the bay, her head resting on his firm shoulder. Another mission. She's hit and spirals down. Zebra ninja warriors swarm in. Stonewing lands among them like an avalanche. A bayonet catches him in the throat, ripping it open. His wonderful bass voice goes silent forever. He doesn't fall, standing over her till the rest of the Marauders extract them. A dinner alone on a mountaintop. She's going to do it. She's ready. She's going to tell him. She's going to let him. But there's an explosion in the village below, and he's away, flying to help. She watches, realizing how alone she's been before flying after him. The bombing at Prance. She tries to get him alone. She tries to tell him how she feels. He listens. He smiles. He shakes his head and kisses her forehead. He breaks her heart as gently as possible. She's grateful for the bomb. An argument. She wants to leave. He wants to re-enlist. She can't see the reason. He just shakes his head. She's had enough fighting. He's not done yet. She signs the papers to stay another year. They watch the rocket rise on a pillar of fire. Stonewing grins like an eager colt. She smiles and can't help herself. She rests her head on his shoulders again, hoping he can't feel her tears. Brimstones fall. She sees the sniper. She starts to open her mouth. The bullet strikes him in the neck, and he falls like a brick, wrapped in a dirty sheet. She flies to save him, to repay him, but the medics load him onto an evacuation wagon with a tag around his hoof. In argument, Big Macintosh tells her to be strong, tells her that it's all right, tells her that the war can't last forever, tells her to remember Stonewing and all they'd done together. She cries out and strikes him. She hits him again and again as the rest of the squad looks on. She sits alone on a cloud. Vanity teleports to her. She tells him what she needs. He tells her it's a mistake. She asks once more. He kisses her cheek softly, tells her he understands. Her eyes widen as he touches his horn to her brow and takes the tears away. I awoke on the floor of the wagon, my gut and inner ears telling me that we were still flying. Fortunately, my brain had been through enough of that. Instead of screaming incoherently, I just lay there and groaned. "Try to relax, Blackjack. We're almost back to chapel," P21 said quietly as he stroked my striped mane. "Guess we weren't much help after all." It was my plan, not your fault," I replied with a groan.
What's wrong with her?
The young filly asked as she looked down at me.
Just not good with wide open places,
I groaned softly.
Too many memories, too. Pinkie Pie, Stonewing, Jetstream.
The little filly suddenly looked curious.
A memory of Pinkie Pie? What was it about?
Some pony tried to bomb a party she was at. Talking helped a little. Took my mind off of falling. Spew, muttered the disgusted filly. I'm not cleaning that up.
Don't worry about it, Silverbell,
Rampage said as she tossed a dirty rag over the puddle. I tried to go back into Jetstream's rapid-fire memories, but it was useless now. My horn refused to make the connection. Then I looked over at Rampage and saw she'd removed her steel barding once more. Lacuna had to carry it so the cart wouldn't be overloaded. The striped pony had no problem looking out, but I suppose that was because if she fell, she'd... Ugh. My eyes drifted further down to her flank, and then I froze. A cutie mark was a pony's most innate self, an ultimate expression of who and what we were. That had been as far as I'd gotten in the lecture before passing out from boredom. But I had the gist of it. Cutie marks mattered. So what was the meaning of a cutie mark, of a teddy bear having its rotting guts torn out by barbs of rusting metal, sprouting from candy, while the bear itself ripped at a distorted zebra glyph of a skull, while fleshy tendrils pulled and shredded at the normally smooth lines, and black lightning struck and shattered wine glasses, while in the background swirled a spiral like a whirlpool. Yes, it actually moved. As I watched, the barbs of rust melted into chains, while the teddy bear pulled its guts back in, and screaming pony faces bubbled to the surface. Our eyes met, red on pink, and she gave me a little smile and shrug.
Heh, beat that for a cutie mark. Mine moves.
I didn't want to beat that. I'd rather die than beat that.
You win,
I replied softly. I shut up for the rest of the flight. I wasn't going to say one single word of complaint right now. There were worse things than flying. Rose's funeral was something of an aberration. Few ponies actually left bodies to be buried when they came to chapel. The sentry beams turned all pilgrims into ash. Still, she'd left Thorn behind, and I'd asked Priest if he would allow it. I hadn't expected any pony else to be here. To my surprise, the entire town attended. The Crusaders marched out en masse to support Thorn, and I suspected that, for them, this was a service for their lost parents as well. The hoofful of adults remained in the back. Lacuna looked right at home in her black lace. After my fight in the Stabletech R&D building, I limped as badly as P21 as we walked out to the field. Rampage was not in attendance. I could have asked his permission. She might have come. Of course, this was the moment the clouds started to threaten rain. Well, my cold couldn't get much worse, could it? Priest stepped next to the sheet wrapping Rose's body, bowing his head respectfully for a moment before speaking in his soft, clear voice.
We all have a journey in our lives, a path to walk, a road to take. Each of us walks that road in our own way, and at our own pace. Sometimes alone, if we must. Sometimes with others, if we are lucky.
The fillies and colts around Thorn nudged her gently, reminding her that she wasn't alone. She was a crusader now.
The road may be dark. It may be hard and painful. And all too frequently, it is cut short by another. We walk these roads as we are able, whether with vigor and excitement or a heavy load. But we all walk. Rose's road has come to an end like so many do in the hoof. It was not a noble road, but while there was the blood of others upon it, there was also virtue, a love for a daughter, and a wish to keep her protected and safe. So, if some would speak ill of the dead, let them do so when the past are not present.
I'll bring a cake to your funeral. You mean I get one? Sweet.
How many lives had I ended that never had gotten this opportunity? Had air duct and vent received one? Where was the funeral for Scoodle? For those 40 nameless foals? For Tumbleweed and 11 zebras? Where were the kind words for U-21? For Vanity? For Gorgon? For Deus? I did not want to die alone and forgotten.
Your road is at an end, Roses. Rest in the embrace of Celestia and Luna. Let the goddesses receive you with their peace and mercy.
We bowed our heads, and then 6 unicorns, myself included, reached out our magic as one and lowered her down into the earth. The assembled ponies shuffled by. Medley dropped in a poem or note. Priest set a drawing of Thorn upon the stained linen. Charity laid 2 bottle caps beside her. Glory a feather. Me, 2 of the little golden flowers. The young earth ponies then took whatever spades they had and started to fill in the dirt. Harpica lay beside Thorn, holding her close under her dried and desiccated wing, with an air of having done this many times for a foal. Ditsy-Doo's leg held Silverbell closely, the overcooked ghoul nuzzling the jagged scar on the filly's brow. As the dirt piled up, Thorn began to sob.
Mama! Mama!
Then a second later, she wailed.
Rampage! Rampage!
I felt myself start to shake. I was already crying, but I had to hold it together. There was one last part. Glory had suggested it. P21 had agreed. How could I not? Slowly, I lifted the contrabass from its case and stood on my hind legs.
You hold it like an earth pony.
I rubbed my cheek on the cool wood and whispered softly,
Please don't let me mess this up.
Priest's sheet music floated before me. I levitated the bow to my hoof, pinched it behind my fetlock, and dragged it slowly across the strings. As the contrabass's slow, sad notes rose over the sound of spades, it was joined by a violin. I looked at Charity in amazement, the filly giving me a grudging little nod as music rose from her glowing horn. I still didn't like her, but for this, there were more important things than what I liked or disliked. Priest calmly added notes of a deeper stringed instrument. I don't know what adagio for strings meant, but as the music rose and fell, rising and falling, I could only feel my own disgusting and diseased heart trying to lift with it. And it hurt. Oh, how it hurt. It didn't matter if I cried. The rain was falling now. Higher, higher.
Just a little further,
the instrument seemed to say. Higher. Silence. I hung my head as we played the last few chords, my heart starting to beat once more in my chest. I didn't know what magic let me get through all that, but when the last note died, we were left with only the hissing rain, a muddy pile of dirt, and a piece of wood marked simply, Roses. Most ponies, being smarter than me, know to get out of the rain, and this time I was at least clever enough to follow them. In the post office was a mournful celebration, as the Crusaders talked about fallen friends and lost family. There were tears, but there were just as many smiles. This was a funeral for far more than just Roses. It was a funeral for Scoodle, and for every pony who had died, yet was remembered. It was for that nameless Dashite, for those infected farmers, for Haas and Granny Smith and Macintosh and Maripony, and all of the fallen marauders. I limped over to the lace-veiled Lacunae.
So, goddess. The goddess isn't here right now.
Lacunae replied in a low tone of near scorn. I was astonished I could hear her over the din.
She could not bear to be here right now. She is ignoring me and distracting herself with inconsequential thoughts of others.
Looking at the alicorn, I frowned, not sure if I was upset at her or her goddess. I thought goddesses were supposed to care.
They are. They are not supposed to die either, but they do. Excuse me,
she said, as she rose and walked into the bathroom. There was a purple flash under the door, and when I peeked in, she was gone. Stepping out, I saw P21 and Glory standing apart. The pair didn't seem to associate with the Crusaders as well as I did. I looked at Charity, and she looked back at me. The truce would last a little longer.
Lacunai's gone. Somewhere.
P21 frowned at me and shook his head. I don't trust it. We don't know what it can do. Glory scowled at him, probably for his choice in pronouns.
Well, you can add disappearing to the list. And wings. And unicorn magic. Telepathy,
Glory added absently. At my uncomprehending stare, she rolled her eyes.
She talks inside her head's Blackjack. Ever notice how you can hear her no matter how noisy it is?
Yes? Yes, but it hadn't occurred to me that it was because her words could skip straight past my ears and into my brain. But that was definitely good to know. So she could talk in my head, though that did make me wonder what else she could do. I drifted through the crowd a bit more, then bumped into Harpika. The dusty old ghoul looked at me in worry.
Oh, Blackjack, have you seen Thorn anywhere? I brought her inside, but she's disappeared, and the rain is getting worse. Oh, the master will be so upset if I lose track of one,
she fretted, forgetting that her master was the one who had killed Thorn's mother. I sighed.
I'll see if I can find her,
I said softly, fearing that I'd have to tear her from her mother's muddy grave. Oh, please, please don't make me do that. I sighed, my mane itching from all the damp. I needed a bath, a hot bath. I stepped outside, coughing and spitting out more phlegm. I needed a few more days' recovery, and I wasn't getting it. Even with the bullet holes healed, I could only hobble along. Pretty soon, I'd be as bad as P21. I slowly scanned the town, but my EFS was bare. She might have been in one of the houses, but I'd have to go into each one. The cool blue colors of the Delta Pitbuck seemed to conspire with the rain to make this day as gloomy as possible. I looked towards Rose's grave and felt relieved and saddened that no pony was there. I sighed and coughed again, wanting to go inside. If Thorn was like me, she probably wanted to be alone. Then, a tiny pink pony inside my head smacked my brain, hard, and pointed out something on the road. A tiny rain-soaked rag. A horn puppet. No. No. Thorn wasn't like me. She still had some pony to go to. I ran to the puppet and saw the lavender filly running towards the bridge. I forgot about my cold and shivery body and ignored my aching legs as I started to run. I yelled out into the rain for her to stop. Had one of the Crusaders told her about the bridge? That she'd be with her mother on the other side? There was another pony on the bridge. A pony that caught her in her limbs and held her as I ran to catch up. Rampage, missing her armor, just held her in her hooves as Thorn sobbed horribly into her shoulder. I stopped, lungs burning, legs feeling as if they were about to break. Her cutie mark seemed to still, the rest blending away into the image of the teddy bear.
Shh, it's all right.
Rampage, Thorn sobbed as she hugged her close.
Shh, it's okay,
she said as she held her. I struggled to tell Thorn to step away, for all three of us to return together. Don't make me shoot her in front of you. My eyes met Rampage's. I jumped into Sats, toggling 3 magic bullets. My useless, exhausted little horn let out an anemic flicker and went dark. Her teddy bear melted away. You'll never hurt again. The rain hissed as a crunchy pop filled the air. It's okay, Rampage said softly to the bloody mass, a bony equine skull grinning at me from her flank. It's okay. You'll never hurt again. Footnote. Level up. New perk added. Dealer's Ante. Every time you kill an opponent in Sats, the spell immediately regenerates 20% AP.